The next item on the agenda is a public hearing rezoning request for 6.62 plus acres on Downsbrook Drive. So the procedure will be this. We have a, did anyone come in late that might need to sign up and speak? Okay, thank you very much. This is a public hearing concerning this, and I will say to the people that present this, for the people that might not be familiar with what is taking place on this public hearing, please go in as deep as you can to make sure everybody understands what we're doing and what the rezoning request is. This usually happens on when you have rezoning requests, because they put a map on the screen. It usually shows you. But and that is on B. Walter, is that Landon? Is that you? What it says: the public hearing rezoning request for 60.62 plus acres on Downsbrook Drive. The city has received a request from Michael Davis, MTD Investments LLC, to rezone approximately 6.62 plus acres of land located on the west side of I-95 at the dead end of Downsbrook Old Farm Road from R12 to R3 residential. A report from the planning staff, planning consultant, is attached. Mr. Landon Holland of Holland and Associates Consultant Planning will be present to present this item to the council. The action the council will take tonight is to, number one, to hold a public hearing, to adopt a statement of consistency, and then to consider a motion to approve or deny the rezoning request. So Landon, with that said, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. First thing I'll do is point out the site, the subject parcel. It is located on the north, or on the, I guess, east and south terminus of Downsbrook Drive, off of Old Farm Drive. You can see we've got a paper clip here pointing to the parcel. I step back. I don't know if the council can see that clearly or not, but there was also, should have been a map in your agenda packets that showed the subject parcel. It is about 6.62 acres, as the mayor has alluded to. And this is the site. So as you can see, Downsbrook Drive comes in to the east and then to the south and terminates at the subject parcel. The only access to this parcel is from Old Farm Road down either end of Downsbrook Drive. Downsbrook Drive currently is a single-family residential neighborhood. It is not completely built out, but is substantially built out in that about 80 to probably 80% of the lots are constructed in a single-family nature. The request that MTD Investments has before the council tonight is for the rezoning of 6.62 acres from the R12 district to the R3 district. The R12 zoning district, by definition, within the City of Roanoke Rapids Land Use Development Ordinance, to put it simply, is a single-family residential district. R12 means that it has a minimum lot size requirement of 12,000 square feet. That is how the existing subdivision was subdivided and ultimately developed, and has remained as such for quite some time, from what I can understand from the staff as well as some of the citizens that spoke at the planning board meeting. The request is to the R3 zoning district, which I guess the easiest way to characterize that in terms of the land use development ordinance is that it is by nature a multi-family district. Within the Roanoke Rapids zoning ordinances or land use code, the only way to construct multifamily housing and or townhouse type development is to be rezoned into the R3 district. It is not a permissible or conditional or special use within any of the other zoning districts. So I don't want to get bogged down in what the intent of MTD Investments is in relation to this property or a given project, but within the ordinances, the only way to go from single unit housing to multi-family development on a single site is to go into that R3 district. So I just want to make that clear. The other item I want to make clear is that in reviewing this, and we spoke about this at Planning Board, and I'll reiterate this to the council, as you all well know, when we're looking at a rezoning request in relation to the city's planning policy, as well as the intent of the applicant, you must view all potential outcomes on that site. So in looking at our staff recommendation and writing the review of the current situation, we have analyzed and laid out the highest and best use of that property as prescribed by the zoning ordinance. And the numbers that I'm going to read through are based on what the developer could potentially put on that site if it is rezoned into the R3 district. Now, what he does and whether he puts this number of units, I cannot speak to that. We are just going to lay out the scenario of what could transpire if the rezoning request were to pass tonight and he was able to move forward with construction. As noted in the report, under the R3 zoning, there is a minimum lot size or a standard of 3,000 square feet per unit for multifamily housing. That would enable the developer, in this case MTD Investments, to construct 96 multifamily units on the 6.62 acre site you see on the map here. He could also, under a conditional use permit, construct approximately 58 mobile homes, and that is at at 5,000 square feet per unit. That is a condition that would require a conditional use permit. The 96 multifamily units at 3,000 square feet per unit would be a use by right and would undergo plan review, but would not require any further council or planning board approvals. The main concerns that the staff has in looking at this situation and this rezoning request is not only the impact on the form and character of the neighborhood that has existed there for many years and the impact that it would have on potentially not necessarily property values, but on the quality of life of the area residents is traffic. Traffic is something that can be quantified. How multifamily units will look and how many will go there. It's difficult to ponder. However, we can look at the impact of traffic on Downsbrook Drive as well as Old Farm Road. Old Farm Road is secondary in this discussion, but staff does, Old Farm Road was originally developed as a local street, and within the zoning ordinance, a local street should handle about 75 to 200 trips per day. And just my brief experience in working through the area, driving through the area and spending some time in the city and speaking with staff, clearly that road handles quite a few more trips per day than 75 to 200. So although Old Farm Road is a secondary consideration in this discussion, the traffic impact would increase and would be impacted by the potential of additional 96 units on the subject site. In looking at how this would impact Downsbrook Drive, what we did, we went in and looked at how many spaces are required per multifamily unit per the Roanoke Rapids zoning ordinance. It requires 1.5 parking spaces per unit. At 96 units, that's 143 automobiles. Those are facts. That is based on the code. Obviously, we don't know how many cars each resident within these units would have, but based on the facts that we have to work with, you're looking at a potential of 143 automobiles. And if you are looking at trips per day, a low-end figure based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation calculations, you're looking at a low-end figure of 6 trips per day per unit, which would have round out at about 575, 600 trips per day coming in and out of that site if 96 units were to be constructed.